Don't you realize? Our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. It's our time.
I so much want your understanding. I want your respect.
Oh, come on. It can't be that bad. I'll do it with you.
Okay, potato chips, other salty snacks.
Good advice. That doctor obviously knows what he's talking about.
Butter, heavy cream, cheese.
Gone? Makes a lot of sense.
Alcoholic beverages.
Okay, that doctor's a quack.
I knew the food would be bad.
Sorry. You're unusually limber this morning. I'll say.
And then we practiced high kicks. Watch. You!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Melt Off Podcast. I am UrzaMaster. GoonieMama is not with me tonight. She is in bed. We're recording late. But she's getting back on track with her weight loss program. We've had some things going on over the past couple of weeks. This episode, entitled Tumult, is going to address a few of those issues, some of my post-surgical concerns, some ongoing things that GoonieMama's been experiencing, and of course just general things. You may notice behind me the background I've been working on so hard for all of the podcasts I do here through Digital Escape Productions has changed. A lot of it's missing. You may see some cardboard boxes off to the side. We are moving. So a couple weeks ago we decided, actually about a month ago now, we decided that we wanted to live closer to Becky's family and have a little bit more support system around us, mostly for raising the kids, but especially with us getting our lives back on track. We felt it was time to address kind of the elephant in the room, and that was we really hadn't had free time as a couple or individuals in a long time, not just to pursue our passions, but to basically be passionate with each other. And with that, we discussed options for moving, and Becky's family are all kind of centered in one area. Most of our friends are nearby that area, with the exception of a few people we know here, but the real vast majority of anybody we've ever spent time with is back in Minnesota. So we are officially moving. Within about a week, we found a few houses we liked. The first house we really liked, we put an offer in, and unfortunately realized it was a little out of our budget. We were a little quick on the trigger, but we were able to kill that deal. We then found another house that we put an offer in. We really liked it, but unfortunately it was not meant to be for us. And then the third house we found is the house we're moving into. So found that all rather quickly. I mean, within about a week and a half. And within a 2-week time frame, we had our house packed up and ready to show. A lot of that was my undertaking, solo, because I was recovering from surgery and had the time off work. So I went through the house, packed it up, got it cleaned up. Becky did a lot of the cleaning stuff outside of work, and with the kids, we had to vacuum and pick up toys and everything every day. So a lot of stress there with moving. And unfortunately, while Becky was starting her maternity leave and taking a trip to Mexico after 2 years of being pregnant, I had an interesting incident that was a spontaneous, somewhat mysterious upper GI bleed. Gastrointestinal tract after bariatric surgery is very different, and you are basically for the first 6 weeks at very high risk for bleeding. Normally, if you're going to have a bleed, it happens pretty quickly, usually within a week of surgery or maybe 2 weeks at most. Mine started about 5 weeks after surgery. I'm going to share some graphic details, so if you want to skip ahead a few minutes, no shame. But the gist of what happened was I had a bowel movement. I noticed it was sticky and black and tarry, which is startling. That's always a bad sign. If you have that kind of a bowel movement, you should consult with your doctor right away. That can be a sign of many bad things, but in my case, I was pretty well aware that it was likely blood of some kind, and it was unclear if it was just leftover surgery blood that took a while to move through the rest of my intestines that I don't normally use now. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to panic right away. I'll wait and see what happens with the next bowel movement. And unfortunately, the next one was similar consistency but looser. And the coloration was darker in color, more black, and actually stained the toilet water red. Obviously a sign of bloody discharge. At that point, I went from concerned to stifled, terrified, and I messaged my care team. And by the time I had a third bowel movement, I hadn't heard back. So at the third time of it happening, I reached out to our only family here in town and said, hey, I know it's late, but I think I need to go to the ER. And I was very fortunate. My stepmother was able to come over and watch the kids. They were asleep for the most part, but she was able to stay. I went into the ER here at Mayo in Eau Claire. The staff there was outstanding. I was not busy that night when I checked in, so I feel very fortunate. I was able to get seen basically right away. But I was pretty terrified. And the unfortunate thing was they wanted me to provide a stool sample, and I barely could eke out a couple of drops. It was definitely bloody, it was definitely tarry, but because it was quite a bit less, the thought process there was, you know what, in all likelihood, probably just a passing issue and probably going to be okay. I was relieved, to say the least. With that, I got discharged about 1 o'clock in the morning and went home. Kids were good. I went to bed, and I was, feeling oogie but fine. No pain or anything. So I felt okay. Maybe it was just a aggravated ulcer or something, and now it's fine. Cool. About 4 o'clock in the morning rolled around, and my daughter must have had a bad dream. She came in and crawled into bed with me, and I woke up and realized I had to go to the bathroom. And it was diarrhea. It was black, tarry, bloody diarrhea. And I thought, okay, well, this is startling. It's quite a bit. But I said, you know what? I'll deal with it in the morning. Went back to bed. Within a half hour, I had to get back up, and it happened again. And basically resolved that, you know what, I'm not going to chance it. I'm going to message my care team. And at that point, they had replied the first time and said, yep, you should come in and get seen. And I said, hey, just FYI, you said to message in case it happened again. They said, I should reach out if I noticed it again after I left the ER. And so I reached out. And nothing else happened that morning. I got the kids off to school, or my daughter off to school, kids off to daycare, and got home after that, was by myself, and was basically just waiting for my care team to get back to me. And then I had another bowel movement, and it was the same. Still diarrhea, very liquid consistency, very much black, bloody, scary, smelly, really bad smell. And I, at that point, I'd messaged, my stepmother again, messaged my daycare provider. I picked up my daughter and took her to my stepmother's house. Then my stepmother drove our van down to the hospital and dropped me off at the ER. And then she thankfully took care of the kids, picked them up from daycare, because when I went into the hospital, they were very busy. I ended up having to wait for a while, which that's no fault of their own. They did everything to address me as quickly as possible, got me back to draw my blood for labs, gave me the full questionnaire thing. They did each of those independently and then sent me back to the waiting room. They were doing really great with everybody who was waiting. They got people in very quickly, tried to do as much as they could as rooms freed up for whatever reason. So eventually I did get into a room, And the nurse kind of came in and did the once over, checked my blood pressure. By that time, they had the lab back. My hemoglobin had dropped a little bit, but it was not a significant drop from, the prior evening that I had come into the ER. So at that point, they were a little concerned. They reach out to the bariatric surgeon who was on call, Dr. Hauer with Mayo Clinic, very nice gentleman. And he came down eventually and was like, well, here's the deal. Your hemoglobin, it's not significantly dropped, but it has dropped. And, you haven't had a bowel movement since you've been here. We should probably get you in to monitor. He said, do you feel like that's the right thing, or would you want to go home? And at that point, I kind of wanted to just go home. I'm like, the nurse kind of said, it could just be that I still had some blood left over, and it might take a couple days to pass. And he's like, I don't think that's the case. So he checked me in, processed me for admission, and he said they're going to have to get you upstairs and get an IV started because I was, at that point, definitely dehydrated. I hadn't had anything to eat or drink. I'd had water that morning, but, I was well short of my daily water goal of 80 ounces. So, he's like, well, we're going to get you processed, get you up. And of course the ER is busy, so, it took a while for them to come in, and the nurses were wonderful. And I also had not taken my medicine for the day. And full disclosure, I do take anti-anxiety medication. It's a very low dose. I have very mild anxiety. I have no shame in the fact that I have anxiety, but I do need the medication for times of high stress to stay sort of even keel and not freak out. But I didn't take it that day, and I hadn't taken it the night before. And at the time, I was having issues with the pharmacy that I normally go to filling it, because I needed to move from extended release to immediate release. So, unfortunately, I'd been taking the extended release and just opening the capsule and hoping for the best. Or actually, at that point, I wasn't even opening the capsule. I was just hoping for the best that it would digest okay. And I was doing all right. This is kind of funny now, but at the time was absolutely terrifying. I told the nurses up front, I said, I get a little freaked out when you look for a vein. And I told the nurses in the ER the night before that, and they found the vein right away, poked me, and it was totally fine. Who knows? Well, this time, the nurse was just transitioning to the ER, had worked in another department for many years, and had to do so many IVs to kind of get into the game. And I said, oh, that's totally fine. And I'm still fine with it. I'm not criticizing. We all have to learn somehow. And I said, but be advised, I tend to freak out when you're looking for a vein. And she had a very skilled nurse with her showing her how to do it. And they ended up feeling both my arms up for a proper vein. And my arms are a little funny. At the elbow, the vein kind of runs sort of horizontally. So it's like it runs along the elbow fold instead of straight up the arm. So it's not a straight shot to put the catheter in for the IV. So they have to go at an angle. And you don't really feel that right away from palpitation. So they really had to feel up my arm and flip them over. And they had to look at both arms. And within a minute or two, I started to panic and have a full-blown panic attack. And they were very reassuring. They said, "You're okay. Just breathe. You're gonna be fine." And I said, "I'm just letting you know I'm freaking out." And I started to squirm a little bit. They're like, "Just calm down. Just take deep breaths." And they ended up having to give me a minute to recover. They took my blood pressure, and it had dropped to I think the lowest it dropped in this whole incident was 97/60. So I was legitimately freaking out. But it was the weirdest sensation because through the whole process of getting the IV, eventually the other nurse ended up doing it and getting it in my left arm at an angle. And it went in fine. The poke itself really wasn't bad, but because of the nervousness and my blood pressure dropping, it started out in my feet. I started to get numbness, like tingling numbness, which is really startling and actually just adds to the fact that you're panicking. And eventually, basically everything but my chest area was numb. It was all the way up to above my belly button numb and tingling. And I closed my eyes and just kept taking deep breaths for what felt like an hour. And I have no idea how long it actually was, but it felt like that long, and it very well may have been. And at one point they're like, okay, we're gonna leave you alone now. And it was just a catheter. They didn't put any fluid or anything in it at this point. And it took a very long time for me to calm down and my blood pressure to come back up. But the thing was, as I started to relax and calm down, I still had tingling in my fingers and my feet and partway up my calves. And that's when the nurse actually came in and put the IV in. So it all started again, and then I had to go through the process again. That's why I think it took so long. But eventually they got that done. I was like stable, I guess you could say. And then another nurse came and got me and was like, okay, we're ready to get you up to the 5th floor where they're going to get you into a room. And they got me into a room with an outstanding view of the river. So I immediately felt better, but I was really cold. And I'm normally pretty hot-blooded. Like, I'm always warm. I'm very much never cold. Even with the weight loss, I really honestly don't get cold. Like, I wear shorts in the wintertime in my house next to a window at my desk when I work, and my feet get a little cold sometimes, but that's it. But this time, like, my hands were cold, like, to the touch, very cold. And I felt out of it and weird. And I noticed, like, I was looking at my thumbs, and there was a big dip. Dehydration had set in at that point. And so I basically told every nurse that came in and would talk to me every detail of everything, because I'm like, I don't know what's relevant, I don't know what's not relevant, and I'm a little scared, so I'm just going to tell you everything, and hopefully we eventually get some answers. Well, they got an IV going, got me some fluids, and I think after about a full bag, I was finally starting to feel a little bit more normal. Again, no pain, but I was very gassy, but I wasn't passing any gas either, which was concerning. And it was mostly just discomfort. It was like a 1 to a 2 pretty much the whole time I was in the hospital until like the last day. And, you know, they said, okay, well, we really need a stool sample to send to your doctor. And I think 3 times a day they were taking my hemoglobin at that point, and it just kept dropping. And the lowest it ended up getting down to was a 7.4, which is very, very low for a man. It's not quite to critical. I think that's a 5, but it's very close. And I have portal access through Mayo, which is great, but can be a double-edged sword because I can see things. And everybody's first impulse is to become their own doctor and Google, which is wrong. It can freak you out more, although in this case I'm a little glad I did, because I kind of could advocate a little bit on like, hey, I need to recognize it, like I'm in a bad way. Because I was able to finally give a stool sample, and I did have another bowel movement even after that sample. And it was about 300 milliliter sample that I was able to give, and it was like all blood, virtually all blood. There was nothing past, because I hadn't eaten anything in over a day at that point, and I was pretty dehydrated. But it came out as liquid. It was blood. It was horrific. It smelled terrible, and I felt awful. And it was diarrhea. I mean, I had to like get up out of my hospital bed, like move all my stuff, grab my IV bag, and I noticed a couple of times. Actually, what tripped me off to go to the ER in the first place is I got up from a sitting position, and my vision went white for an instant, and I was extraordinarily lightheaded and had to like catch myself and hold myself. I'm like, whoa, that's not good. So that prompted me to go in the first place. It happened again in the hospital, to a lesser extent a few times. And then finally, when they were coming in to kind of check me over the next morning, it it happened in a big way, because they're like, okay, if you're dizzy, you need to call us anytime you need to go to the bathroom. And I stood up, and I about fell over. Like, that may be a little dramatic, but I like definitely had to like catch myself and went, whoa. I'm like, it just happened again, lost my vision momentarily. I mean, and it was very quick. It was not like a long or prolonged experience. It was like an instant. And it took a good few seconds for me to like collect myself enough. And that's when I realized that I had a constant lightheadedness. And throughout the day, they're like, we're just going to continue to monitor you. You haven't dropped that much. I was in the 9s at that point. My surgeon, Dr. Linus, wasn't back yet. She was off duty that day, so monitoring was well advised. They were giving me medications. They got me my anti-anxiety, so I started to mentally feel better. But physically, I was very drained. I was very tired. I wasn't eating or drinking anything, just basically water. At some point, they said, you could probably get like liquids. And I said, in case they have to scope me, I'm sticking to water because I don't want to have to wait any longer to get a scope if it's medically necessary. And that was a good plan on my part, just in case. But when I finally hit 7.4, like early that next morning, Dr. Linus came in and she's like, okay, hemoglobin's low. And I said, yeah, at what point is it like dangerous? And she's like, 5 is when we would give you blood. And I said, she's like, because you'll get dizzy and lightheaded. I said, I'm sitting in a hospital bed and I'm dizzy right now. And I was dizzy sitting up, not moving, being able to lean back in the bed, just sitting there. I was lightheaded, dizzy. It was hard to concentrate. It was really scary. I mean, and I almost got emotional, like just telling, my surgeon and the care team that was with her, like, I'm actually kind of terrified. Like, I'm trying to hold it together right now. I know I'm taking the drugs that should help with whatever's going on in the upper tract. And then, they made the decision, okay, you need a unit of blood. It's going to help make you feel better. In the off chance that this continues to happen, we don't want you to go any lower. And it was the right decision. Once I got the unit of blood in me, I felt tremendously better. A blood transfusion is there's risks involved. It's a serious thing. And an upper GI bleed is a very serious condition. It can be devastating, even fatal if you don't get into a hospital. So I did the right thing by coming in. They did the right thing by treating me the way they did. And what we found is after the blood transfusion, my hemoglobin did come back up, and it trended up over the next day, and I was feeling better. I was passing gas again. I did not have another bowel movement, and that was on par with normal, because it was more like every couple of days I was having a bowel movement versus every day or a couple of times a day. So they ended up discharging me on, I believe, the 4th day. It was a Saturday before I went back to work. And my dad picked me up. He and my stepmom took care of the kids while I was gone, which was wonderful. And really a huge help and relief on me. But I miss my kids like crazy. Becky was in Mexico beside herself for a few days. And then she was supposed to come back on Sunday, and because of the snowy weather we had, she got delayed in Mexico by 2 more days. And I said, you just enjoy yourself, go back to the resort, try to relax. I'm fine, I'm home, it's going to be okay. I, at this point, had not told her how very close I came to a very dangerous hemoglobin level. I let her know it was serious and I was scared, but I didn't let her know how scared or how close to a really bad situation I was. But I was in very capable hands. Every single nurse was the most wonderful person. My whole experience at Mayo Luther campus here in Eau Claire, I can't say enough good things. I could go on and on for days about how they listened to me and truly seemed to care about me. And I was really trying hard to be the least needy patient, because there were a couple of patients I could hear on the floor that definitely had a lot of stuff going on, and I was like, you know what? I know I'm bleeding out of my butt, but I'm okay. Like, I could stay in this bed and try and walk around, and I can get to the bathroom and pee if I need to, but like, I'm gonna take it easy, but like, I'm not gonna make demands. You'll fill my water when you notice it's empty. I'm gonna be okay. I'm on fluids anyway. Um, I ended up not needing an EGD right away. I'm going to get one here in a couple months, but so fortunately I was able to go home and be okay. I got my medicine filled. It did take a couple days. I had some issues with CVS getting it filled. Eventually ended up just getting what I needed most urgently at the Luther pharmacy. Don't know why I didn't fill it there in the first place. It's just I normally use CVS, so that's what I defaulted to. In the future, I question that decision. I should have gone to the Luther pharmacy right away. It made no difference in what I paid out of pocket. So I got that filled. I did end up getting my anti-anxiety med filled. Finally, CVS got that done for me about a day later. So within a couple of days, I had everything I needed for medication. I knew what to take. I met with Dr. Linus again quickly, and my hemoglobin had come back up over 10. And things have trended in the right direction ever since. I've not had any more bloody stools. I will say though, for those of you who have gastric bypass, I've had some like big hard poops. Miralax, stool softener, take them if you have them, because I did get a tiny little hemorrhoid, and now I have like some bright red blood on occasion when it's a big movement. I've been very diligent about gently letting things happen as opposed to being like, I'm in a hurry and need to push this. I'm not going to risk any tears or anything. But it's never been more than a drop or two that I've noticed on the toilet paper, which is very reassuring after having seen what I've seen. But Becky got back late Tuesday night after I was back home, and it was wonderful to see her. And then I told her kind of all the truth of what had gone on, and she's like, oh my God, I'm glad you could still enjoy some of your vacation. I feel bad that, kind of ruined it for you. And she's like, well, I mean, there were bigger things. No, like you deserved this, and I feel bad, but it went well. And I can say that it has been going very well since that time. One main concern I have is I've been very cautious about what I eat. I stayed on a full liquid diet after I left the hospital for the first week until my follow-up, and Dr. Linus was like, okay, I think we can go back to fork squishable and try and challenge foods again, but really take it slow. And I did. I still only did like yogurt and banana and eggs and stuff I knew was very soft for a good week. And then I started to allow myself to kind of eat a little more normal foods from there. But still now I don't eat anything real crusty. I make sure to chew anything that's even questionable, whether or not it's like squishy with a fork, as much as possible. I was doing that before too, so we really don't know what caused the bleed. But so far, no issues. I count my lucky stars. I've definitely cognizantly chosen, liquid-only meals just to be ultra safe and kind of conservative with what I'm eating. Plus, I've seen a lot of weight loss. Today, I weighed in at my lowest so far, 260.4. That is a weight I had not seen since early my freshman year of college. That was 16 years ago. That's a lot of excess weight to drop in a relatively short amount of time, but I feel fantastic. I feel better than ever. Exercising has never been easier. With the move, the majority of my exercise has been walking, going up and down stairs, carrying heavy boxes and furniture and bags of stuff, and I mean, you name it. Boxes of video games don't weigh the same as feathers. I've got a lot of heavy stuff, a giant box of books that I might want to repack. But I've been keeping extremely active around the house. I've done a couple of formal weight lifts. I Have done mostly outside walks because the weather's been nice, but when needed, I get on the elliptical. I still get around like 30 to 40 minutes of exercise minimum a day. It's a little less formal than I'd like it to be, but it's been enough where I feel like I'm losing. I feel like I'm preserving muscle. I've noticed my arms are smaller than they've ever been, but you know they're not bad. I know this is not an impressive physique, but there's more definition that I can see now than ever before, which is really heartening. I would show off my stomach, but I've got 2 shirts on, and that has been like the most noticeable change. I saw it the other day. We were at my sister-in-law's house, and I just turned to like grab my toothbrush after I took a shower, and I was like, holy crap, like, apologize for the camera focus, but like, I looked, and from my chest to my upper pubic area, it was flat. Like, there was no belly rounding. Like, I'm sitting now, and there's a little bit of a belly here, but like, it was flat. Like, I could do this and go all the way down and like roll right off my body without having to like hold in my tummy or like stand a certain way to take a selfie. And I was like, I took 2 selfies and I sent them to some friends of mine. I'm like, holy shit, I have not looked like this as long as I can remember. I've always had a big round belly, you know, I mean, since I was a kid, like, except when I was maybe like 4 or 5 and played outside 9 hours, 10 hours a day, running around playing with dogs and stuff. Like, I legitimately do not remember a time ever when I looked in the mirror and saw the physique I see today. And it's been, I mean, secret time, it's been really great. I'm so proud of the work I've done, and I'm so glad I made this decision to do what I've done. Has it changed my eating habits and my tastes? Yeah, big time. Am I able to enjoy more of the foods I used to enjoy? Yeah. It's coming back. I had shrimp spring rolls the other day, 2 of them, which seemed like a lot, but they're over half of the spring roll was veggies. So I felt good about that. It had high protein. It was good, lean cod that was in there. It was imitation crab, so it had a little sugar to it, but you know, it was lean protein and shrimp, and high in protein for, you know, a very small meal compared to what I used to eat. And I hit my protein every day now, for the most part. I think today was a little shy just because of the fact that I don't have any more of my Fairlife drinks on hand. But I did pick up some Gatorade Zero Protein, which has 10 grams per bottle. Tastes like a regular Gatorade. It's a little bit different consistency, but it's not bad. It's not unpleasant. And it's 0 sugar, which is great. It's 50 calories a bottle. Helps you stay hydrated, gets you your protein. I like it. I'll probably buy more of it in the future. I still love those Fairlife ones. They're still the best tasting, and it's 42 grams of protein per bottle. And I can kind of nurse it all day. And then I supplement in with my 15-gram Oikos 000 yogurts. I have 2 of those a day. That's 30 grams off the bat. Today I had an egg. That was some protein. At lunch, I had some Budak ramen. I couldn't eat the whole thing. The noodles anyway, I ate about half of it, maybe a little less. But I did have some Vienna sausage, which is not the greatest protein source, but it's soft, goes down very easy, digests very easy, and it's a good source of protein. It's not a ton. It's no more than maybe a hot dog and a half, but it's smaller than a hot dog and a half. And, you know, so I'm probably closer to like 60 grams on the day than, you know, my typical 80, but that's still not terrible for a day when I felt like I was eating kind of normally. Some days you just want to feel normal again after the surgery. But all in all, I feel very good, very comfortable with my progress. I've been ahead of my curve for weight loss this whole time. I've kind of set myself a goal. I'd like to drop another 20 pounds by July, which is a lot of time between now and then. I think I could probably drop more than that, especially once I kind of get into our new house and can get to some real formalized exercise and not feel like there's so much going on all the time. Plus, I've been kind of taking it easy because after I got out of the hospital, I had a couple of weeks where I'm like, I'm a little scared to do too much because I don't want to tear anything or do anything. Luckily, it was not the lifting that did whatever happened to me. It was definitely probably I wasn't taking my omeprazole properly. I was taking the capsule, and some days I wasn't even taking it because I couldn't honestly remember that I needed to. So my advice is when you're post-op and you're loopy, make sure everybody writes this stuff down for you and make sure you rewrite it down yourself a couple of times and really drill it into your head because that PPI needs to be taken every day for like 6 months. I actually have to take it twice a day right now for a while, and then I'll be able to step it back down. And I'm also on Carafate just as an extra layer of precaution. And Carafate, I have to grind it up. It's a big horse pill. It is not pleasant. I can taste it in my mouth now. It's like bubble gum you scraped off the sidewalk when it's in the pill form. The suspension tastes a little bit more like bubble gum, and it's a little more tolerable. It's not pleasant, but it's a little bit better. I add mine to my yogurt when I eat it, and it's okay. The fruit flavor of the yogurt and the tartness of the Greek yogurt it is that kind of masks it. But you kind of have to stagger it out with your PPI, your vitamins, and everything. So I found that I'm kind of having a hard time remembering the pill sequence because it all has to be taken in a relatively short amount of time. Today I accidentally took my anti-anxiety twice this morning. So I was very happy all day. But I noticed it. I'm like, okay, I'm abnormally happy. Like, this is definitely a little high. Not that I was trying to do that. That was accidental. But that can be dangerous. So just make sure, like, you are very careful about what you do and follow those guidelines. So I know I've given you a lot of my picture over the last few weeks. I know GoonieMama's not here, but I want to share a little bit of her journey. And I'm not going to speak out of turn and make assumptions. I'm just going to put out there what I can put out there. Right now she's hovering around 245, which is about right in line where she's been, but she had a trip to Mexico for an extended 2 days where she enjoyed herself. She didn't overdo it, but she also had fun, deservingly so. You should have vacations and moments when you can do the things you like to do, drink the things, and eat the things you like to do, eat and drink. And, and she's been relaxing. We've been going on walks when we can with the kids, and, she's been helping pack up the house. So she's been getting some exercise there. Obviously, taking care of the kids is exercise all its own. She's been getting out with Linnea after school and being active there. But real formal exercise and nooming has kind of fallen to the wayside a bit. I will say this, she looks great. Every day I notice that, she looks amazing. She always has to me before all the nooming, through all the pregnancies. She's always beautiful to me. But I can tell she just has this confidence about her when she's exercising and eating right. And that's still held true. I feel it's still there. She's doing her overnight oats again, and not all of them are winning flavors, but she's been very careful about what she's been putting in her body and maintaining that sort of Noom-style behavior that really makes the program successful. And I do think, once this move and the stress of everything is over, she'll get back into it. She'll be rejoining me on the podcast hopefully soon, and I think she's going to see tremendous results because she's really good at the discipline and sticking to it, and sees the struggles I've been going through and really wants to forge her own path. And, we're setting good examples for our kids now with the way we eat and the healthy things we're putting in our bodies. So I think that's been a real motivator for her too. I know she's talked about it, so again, I'm not assuming anything, but the other thing was she sees my success, and it's inspiring to her. She's proud of me, and that makes me feel really good. It's nice to have somebody say that they're proud of you. And I think that that is something where she's, really seeing that, together we can really do some great things. And I would say to anybody on bariatric or going through a weight loss journey, it's about having a support system. It's hard to be successful on your own, and it's okay to stumble. It's okay to have days or weeks, maybe even months that, it doesn't go to plan. As things change in our lives, emotional stress, stress at work, financial stress, all of that can contribute to your weight. And weight is meant to fluctuate. It's not something that is static. I go up and down a little bit every day. I weigh myself every day so I can track my fluctuations. And what I found is I'll go a couple of days, I'll drop a few pounds, I'll go a couple of days, I'll drop a few pounds. That's normal. That's healthy for bariatric. For folks not doing bariatric, it might be a pound or two a week. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's healthy. Noom will even tell you a half a pound to a pound a week is like the goal. So if you're losing more than that, that's great, but real steady progress, it comes in small increments. I think that's why those Nutrisystem commercials say, hey, results are atypical. Yeah, they are. And we live lives too. You have to enjoy yourself. You have to eat foods you enjoy. I mean, food in moderation, having a donut once in a while, it's okay. It's not going to break your diet for the year. You have a couple donuts a year, a few donuts a year, a dozen donuts a year, one a month, 24 in a year, 2 a month. It's not going to break you. It's about staying active and about normally taking in healthy stuff, vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, healthy fats. Depending on your nutritional needs, it may vary. That's a conversation between you and a doctor. But, it's okay to have stumbling blocks. We've talked about roadblocks before, plateaus before. My great success this week has been getting back to work and keeping a real positive attitude about it. And despite all the stuff we have going on, I'm still making progress. I'm still hitting my water for the most part. I'm thirsty now. I've been talking for a couple hours. I had a meeting before this, but for the most part, I've been hitting my fluids. I've been getting my proteins. I've been exercising. I've packed up almost the entire house pretty much on my own. I'm not saying GoonieMama didn't help. She did. But a lot of the big stuff, and honestly, this whole basement is basically all my stuff, which is a lot, and it's a lot of heavy stuff. It's a lot of work. I've been doing a lot of great work lately, and I'm proud of that, and that's been a big success. My roadblock, maintaining the protein and the fluid intake. I'm going to probably say that every week just because it can be really tough. I was a little shy on protein today. I made the goal, but I like to get a little bit more than that. Part of that is I kind of refuse to go to the grocery store for just like a handful of things, and I'm trying to keep our fridge as bare as possible because we're only here for a few more days. 8 days now. Tomorrow will be 7. And honestly, I just want to try and live some normalcy. Like having that Budak ramen today just felt so normal. And it was very spicy, which was wonderful. And I didn't get like any issues from high spice, which I'm so worried I would lose my tolerance for spice. I've not. I'm so happy about that. But I've really learned that part of recovery from surgery and part of a weight loss journey is about maintaining your enjoyment and fulfillment in life. And yeah, I can't eat the Chinese food that I want to, but I've found real enjoyment in having meals with my family when I can, and when I can't, and I'm just letting them eat, finding some zen. Sitting on the couch feeding the baby while the older kids and my wife are eating it's a nice moment for me with my son, and it's a nice moment to just sip my protein shake or my water and just appreciate the fact that I've made a decision for my health that's going to give me more time with my family than I would have otherwise had. And that my numbers are all headed in the right direction. And I'm really hoping when I have my follow-up with my primary, everything is awesome and, you know, we can continue all the great things that have been going on. I just feel so overwhelmingly positive, and I owe a huge debt of gratitude to the folks at Mayo. All the folks in the bariatric program are amazing. I got to speak to one of the latest group therapy groups, and I was actually on there with a person who came and spoke to my group and inspired me to do some things. We have very different journeys, he and I, but it was really nice to sit there with another gal who's in my group and I, who were fresh, kind of out of surgery, and then he who's over a year and a half out of surgery, and really just like give these folks who are considering it or who are on the program like a peace of mind that they can walk away with, and tips and tricks. Believe it or not, it makes a real impact. So I hope that this Melt Off podcast helps you, again, whatever journey you're on, whether it's bariatric, Noom, Weight Watchers, or your own program. Please, please never doubt yourself. You can do this. It starts with you, but you should have a support system. Find people who support you, whether it's your folks at your gym, your doctor, your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, partner of a non-binary variety. It doesn't matter. Like you need to establish a network of people who are behind you and will help you achieve your goals. And understand too that it's a personal journey. Nobody can tell you how to lose weight, how to keep yourself healthy. The only people who really have any insight are your doctors. But you know your body best. You know, don't push yourself too hard, but don't get too lackadaisical either. Again, I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist, not a gym rat, not a healthcare professional of any kind. I'm not a bodybuilder. I am not a fitness or exercise physiologist. I'm a regular guy. GoonieMama is a regular gal, and we are on two very different journeys and are melting off the pounds we've been saving all these years that we don't need. And we hope that you'll join us again on the Melt Off podcast. Thank you very much for your time. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Digital Escape podcast here on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to us. It helps us do this podcast, and it helps us promote all of our content on this channel. If you're listening to us, please give us a follow or a subscription on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. We are on Spotify, Amazon Music, and all major podcast platforms. You may have to search us out because there are a couple of similarly named podcasts that are not the same subject matter, but we appreciate your listenership. And if you want a steady link where it's easy to find us, you can always check us out at digitaliscapepod.com. Have a great day.